Today we're looking at not so much a question, but the challenges that new designers are facing. So these are kind of more so the complaints I'm getting from a lot of new starting designers who are just starting in the industry, or designers who are just starting out working with clients. So what are the things that are the challenges? Well, the biggest one is obviously finding a job. So finding a job is usually quite difficult in this industry, because if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that the interior design industry isn't kind of set up in the way that you expect. So let me just go into that. So a lot of the schools will teach that they'll teach you kind of a background of interior design, and then they expect you to get practical experience working for an office. But that office will be expecting practical experience. So you've got this kind of chicken and an egg problem, that you can't get experience without previous experience, and you kind of can't get experience without a job. So it's kind of this problem that keeps going round and round, and it's a problem that a lot of new interior designers are facing. So that is a real big issue, and it's something I speak about quite a lot. Also, I think the problem is in the education that is kind of standard across the industry, which is more so designed for people who are straight out of school, because it means that you can work for lower wages or for free, and you can shadow somebody, and that is possible for people who don't have a mortgage potentially, or children. So who are more flexible with their days. And that is usually not a possibility for people who are changing into the career of interior design a little bit later in life. So what's the solution? I think, well, for me, I always say it's so much easier to get a client than it is to get a job in interior design. And you know that if you've been following me for around, that is why obviously I mentor. But that is because I know how frustrating it is to get or to try and get a job, because that was what led me to become a mentor. Because I was in my first year of business, and every single day I had so many people calling me saying that they'll work for free, they'll do anything to get a job. It was really, it was just so sad, because I knew how easy it was to just get clients. I was right in the start of my business where I was getting hundreds of clients. I had hundreds of projects, and I was like, just get a client. And that's much better, because you were going to get so much more experience. The one thing that actually counts in the industry, rather than trying to get a job where not always, not all employers are great. So you might be learning bad habits, and you might be learning things, or which used to happen a lot more in the past, not so much these days, but the designer would talk you out of being an interior designer because they found it so hard. And then obviously they put all of their negative energy on you and make it out to be a really horrible job, when in fact it isn't. It's a really fantastic job. It's just that they had to struggle because they didn't have support, because they did things in a particular way. So and also back in the day, there wasn't as much information as you have freely available now. So that's the first challenge, is obviously finding work. If you do want some help with that, I've got videos and blog posts written about this, about how to get clients with portfolios, how to build your portfolio. Go check those out, because they're really thorough. And they'll help you at every stage of your career, not only just if you're trying to get your first job, but if you're trying to grow into a second job, or if you're starting to look for brand new clients, or starting to work as an interior designer for yourself. So have a look at those. So the next thing is another big challenge that I find new interior designers are having is, these kind of came in different bits and pieces, but it's breaking the myths in the industry. Interior designers, there are so many different types of interior designers. We do different things, we offer different services, and the type of interior designer seems, well, on telly, it seems as though all interior designers are the same. But in reality, we're not. For example, I do architecture and interiors. There are a lot of interior designers who just focus on styling. Some just do decorating. Some do interior, or especially furnishings. They focus on that. Or then you've got like an interior designer who does a vast array of things and only specializes perhaps in e-design. So if you actually want, I've also got a blog post on that. If you want to see what the individual interior designers do, and what you are capable of doing, depending on what skills you have, go have a look at that blog post. So breaking the myths in the industry is a big one, because what the perception is of interior design and what it is that we do is one thing, but actually what we do is another. So there's a little bit of education that goes along with clients, and helping even your friends understand why you want to be an interior designer and what it is that you might be doing. Because what they see is master challenges on Netflix, and it's not the reality, because we don't. I mean, typically they show actual designers physically making things and painting. I mean, we don't do that. We're designers. We don't usually go in and start laying wallpaper in places. I mean, it's a nice skill to have if that is what you also do, but that is not the main thing. We're designers, we're professionals. So it's not like some interior designers set their business up like a trade, but we don't, it's not as a standard thing, because you would be more of a trade and then have a profession as a design on kind of included onto that, rather than leading with a design service and then having an additional service. So the other thing is that a lot of clients or people think that interior designers are not only very eccentric, but that we push ideas onto people. And this can be a tough nut to crack, because in the industry, that is, having a strong style, having a strong personality is what looks like the type of designer that will be successful. But that's not necessarily true in reality, because in reality, we actually listen to what clients want and we give them what they need according to the brief and the contract. But it can kind of be a little bit, it's a bit of a myth that interior designers, I know there are interior designers who walk into a place and just wave their hands around and talk like this and say that this is what we do, and I'll change this and I'll change that, and that we blow the budget out. But that's not really the reality. Yes, some clients will say, give me your ideas, and I want you to express your creativity. But that's a specific request. It's not usual. So it's a real play, an interplay of you and the client. So it's not just you coming in and saying, oh, you've got to do this, and there is no kind of discussion or conversation with the client. It's not rhetorical. So just to cover that obviously we don't just blow budgets out of control. Also, one more, I heard this recently, that the perception is that we can just whip up a design in like minutes or in 1 hour. I think a designer with a large following said this recently, and that is how we design. There may be some projects that you can whip up within an hour, but that is also that would be a very simple type of project. And I think that is the other thing to understand with the industry, is that you have to explain to clients that there are different types of projects and the type of project that you're doing. Because if it is the type of project that you whip up in an hour, obviously that would have different boundaries set around that, and so that you can obviously still make a profit as a designer. Or if it is the fact that you're churning them out. If for example, you're doing e-designs or just really simple one-off consultations. So these are the type of myths we have to bust as interior designers, especially new interior designers, because if you don't have a record of past experience or past projects to kind of share and explain to people, you have to kind of bust all these myths and say, no, that's not what I do. There might be designers out there who do these kinds of things, but this is where I sit in the boundaries of interior design. So the next one is kind of leading on to that, is that clients and people in general still don't know what it is that we do. I heard recently the statistic that people don't even know what architects do, which I find baffling. But I think the statistic was that only 40% of people actually knew what an architect did or what an architect was. So I thought that was very, very strange, considering considering something I've been passionate about since I was a child. So I always knew what, for as long as I could remember, what an architect or an interior designer was. But I mean, if people don't even know what architects do, imagine what people know what interior designers do. So that can be a really, really confusing one. And explaining these things to people is one of the big challenges that new designers face, because you need to be really clear about what it is that designers do overall, but what it is that you do specifically. Next is managing client expectations. We've got another video on that. So have a look at that. But managing client expectations is a big one, because there's a lot of things that you need to communicate as part of your job role as an interior designer. And if you've never done this before, if you're not very confident in that process, you can get a lot wrong, and you need to lead the process. You're the professional, and because of that, there's if you've got a kind of problem in your process that you're not aware of, these can cause, this is usually where a lot of designers will blame the client, say, well, the client made all these changes, well, the client did this, well, the client did that, the client didn't pay me. Well, in a profession, you're the leader, you're leading the project. So it's up to you to nip these things in the bud straight away and take control of these things. And if you're the type of person who can't do that, or don't have the boundaries in place, or who doesn't have a contract to protect you to refer back to, so these are the kind of tools we have to kind of, and the process in place to say, well, here's the point where you can change something. From this point on, if you want changes, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So let's kind of see if this is where you're really happy. Let's sign it off and let's move on. So if you don't have these processes in place, or if you don't have the confidence to uphold those processes and lead the project, then you can create a lot more problems for yourself. And that will be a problem when you are trying to manage client expectations, because you're going to be always pushing back against them, and or the client, well, not only client but builders as well, and they'll be pushing you to do more than you ever agreed, and they'll be pushing you. I mean, you know that saying, you give a little and they take a lot, whatever the saying is. But it's really true with clients, because they don't usually know what is included in an interior design service. So if you're not very clear about what you're including, a bit wishy-washy here and there, and say, oh yes, I can do that, but you don't put it in writing, you don't say the boundaries around what you've included, well then of course that can be really confusing. But that's your I was going to say your fault. It is your fault, but I'd rather say that that's your responsibility, because you need to be guiding the process. You need to be guiding your clients and the builder, and making sure that you're confident about those decisions that you're making, and that they're all in the right order. You're giving the right opportunity for your client to give their decisions, and you're just following the process as it should with a typical design project process, so that you can deliver it successfully. So the next one, I suppose, is confidence, because if you can't exceed or undertake client or manage client expectations, if you don't have the confidence to do so, and there's a lot of people in the industry who will be pushing you around, really. That's why I find it's easier for interior designers who are older, so mature age interior designers, because naturally with age you do gain confidence to just say no. Whereas as there are typically, just I'm generalizing here, but younger, more aspiring designers usually will say yes to everything, just to not only please the client, but also to learn. And they're more flexible in that sense, that they're like, well, okay, I did that wrong, or I did that for free, but it doesn't matter, it was a good learning experience. Well, that's not always correct, especially if you've got the confidence to say no, this is actually not right. Because these days, if someone's forcing you to do something, I always think, I always take the paranoid perspective. What if something goes wrong and you're standing there in court and someone's saying, well, why did you do it? And you say, oh, because the client forced me to do it. And the client will say, well, it's your job, you're the professional here. And you just say, well, there's nothing else you can say, because you're actually the person who had the responsibility to do the right thing. And if you didn't do the right thing, and you can't And this happens to architects all the time. Architects specifically because clients will always try and push to finish a project quickly and try and get into a house, especially if it's a big, larger project that's been building for quite some time. Yes, projects can go over time, and clients can get really just frustrated, and they just want to move back into the house. But if they do move into the house, all of those things that trigger the contract that happen at that point, it's a really, really bad decision. It's usually the architect or the project manager, whoever's, or contract administrator, whoever is running that project. They are the ones to blame with those decisions. So even if the client is pushing you, it's still your decision and still your responsibility to say, no, I'm the professional here. This is in your best interest. This is what I've agreed to do. And I have to confidently say that this is my choice, that this is what I decide to do. And if you don't have that confidence to hold that decision, ultimately you're the one to blame, which can be a little bit scary, I suppose, for those designers who are new and who haven't had that experience before. And you will be a pushover at the beginning. And I know, because for, I suppose, about 20 years, I was a pushover. And I literally did anything that I was told. And that got me into a lot of trouble as well, because I pushed, just because I could, because I was highly skilled, even from a very young age. But I had so much more experience when I was straight out of university. I had already built 3 buildings from scratch. And a lot of designers don't build that kind of stuff within 5 or 10 years of their career starting. So by the time I had even finished my first degree, I was already a confident site architect and designer. So it was... even somebody with that kind of knowledge, I was still being pushed around, because I was like, yeah, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. But actually, should I have? Probably not, because was that in the contract, or was that in my responsibility to do? What kind of liability was I taking on? So knowing your boundaries, being able to speak up to builders is a really big one. So I wanted to just keep on going. There was challenges. Another challenge is keeping up with technology and trends, laws. All of these things keep changing. It's kind of crazy, but they really are changing so quickly, especially right now, especially with AI. So things like programs like AutoCAD and SketchUp, every year they're changing. It's madness. So, everyone wants a subscription. So everyone wants you to be paying to get the new release. And it's to stay up to date with even technology, style trends, changing laws. This is a real difficult challenge for interior designers who are just starting out, especially if you don't have trusted information, which is a big one, because on the internet now you're finding a lot of stuff that is incorrect. Changing laws that you need to keep up with, not only in your area, but the areas that you want to practice. But also things like dying trades, like, is rendering something you want to learn, considering AI can do it like that? And although it's not fully developed yet, is it a skill that you want to be investing thousands and thousands to do or to learn? So also have a look at our courses, because we have got courses on AutoCAD, SketchUp, and AI. So they are things that we can help you with. Also, I suppose that just to finish up is finding the right community, because having access to the correct information, but also a professional community, because most designers out there, especially new designers, are on Facebook groups and getting free information from people who are maybe not the right people to be getting career guidance from, I suppose is the right way to say. A lot of them are people who are just renovating their houses, or clients fishing for free information. They're not typically real professionals, or even if they are, perhaps not professionals that have invested in their own careers, because they're still out there finding free information. So not that, we all do it, but it's you want to be getting trusted professional guidance, I suppose is what I'm saying, especially at the beginning, because this is where you can make the biggest mistakes. So if you are looking for a community, have a look at our mentorship options. And I'll just finish at that. So what are the challenges? The key challenges are finding a job, breaking the myths. Clients don't know what we do, so explaining and trying to explain what it is that you do specifically, and also clarify what all interior designers do. Having the confidence to push back when either a client or a builder is pushing against you, so having your boundaries in place, keeping up with technology, and then finding the right community. So if you are looking for mentorship, have a look at our mentorship options.